Hi students, and welcome to today's lesson. I'm Mrs. Baidani. Today we will explore the question, what is the weather like where we live? Are you ready? Grab your pencil and your science journal, and let's get started. Look at the rain falling on this garden. Do you think a lot of rain is falling, or just a little? How can we collect and measure the amount of rain? Maybe we could put a container outside to catch the rain. But we would still need a way to measure the rain in the container, right? Remember, rain, snow, sleet, and hail are forms of precipitation. In this lesson, we will build a container to catch and measure the amount of precipitation. We will use these materials. How do you think we can use them? Do you think the ruler is for measuring precipitation? I think so too. And maybe we can use the soda bottle to catch the precipitation. What do you think the pebbles are for? Let's find out. First, we'll put the pebbles in the bottom of the bottle. The pebbles will be there to anchor for our rain gauge so it doesn't tip over. We will put the top of the bottle upside down in the bottom of the bottle to make a funnel. The funnel will direct water into the container. We will use paper clips to secure the funnel so it stays in place. Now we have our container to catch precipitation. But we still need a way to measure the precipitation, right? So let's attach the ruler to the outside of the bottle with rubber bands. The unit on this side of the ruler is inches. We will measure the amount of precipitation in inches. Let's make the 0-inch mark of the ruler even with the top of the pebbles. Then we will move the ruler for a moment so we can mark the spot on the bottle with a marker. Finally, we will fill the bottle with water until the top of the water is even with the 0-inch mark. Why do we fill the bottom of the bottle with water and pebbles? Do you notice that the bottom of the bottle is not even? Measuring from an uneven surface is difficult. When we fill the bottom of the bottle with pebbles and water, we get an even surface to start measuring from. That's why we line up the 0-inch mark on the ruler with the top of the pebbles and water. When rain or other precipitation falls, the water level will rise above the 0-inch mark. We can measure the amount of precipitation by reading the value on the ruler at the new water level. Meteorologists call this type of container a rain gauge. We can use a rain gauge to measure rain and to measure other forms of precipitation, such as snow, sleet, and hail. Snow, sleet, and hail contain ice, and ice is the solid state of water. So if the rain gauge catches snow, sleet, or hail, the ice will need to melt before we can measure the liquid. To use a rain gauge, we need to put it outside to catch precipitation. Where should we put the rain gauge? We need to put the rain gauge somewhere it can stay upright. We need to choose an open area with nothing to block precipitation from entering the rain gauge. And we need to choose a place that is out of the way so people don't accidentally knock the rain gauge over. We now have a way to observe and measure 3 of our 4 weather conditions: cloud cover, wind speed and direction, and amount of precipitation. But what about the 4th weather condition, temperature? Can we measure temperature without a tool? Let's try. Tell me, what is the difference between a hot day and a warm day? Well, the temperature on a hot day is warmer than the temperature on a warm day, right? But a warm day and a hot day might have very similar temperatures, and different people might have different ideas about what warm and hot mean. When we use a thermometer, we measure temperature in a quantity that everyone understands. But before we measure temperature, we must be able to read a thermometer. Let's practice. Look closely at the numbers and tick marks on the right side of the glass tube. A thermometer is like a ruler. Each tick mark on a temperature represents a quantity, and the spaces between the tick marks represent equal units. Let's work together to figure out the value each tick mark represents. Look at the tick marks between 0 and 10. Are there enough tick marks to count by ones from 0 to 10? No, maybe we should count by 2s. Let's try. 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We did it! So each tick mark represents 2 units. Do you see the degree symbol and the letter F on this side of the thermometer? This notation refers to the Fahrenheit scale, which people use to measure temperature. The unit the scale measures is degree Fahrenheit. Degree Fahrenheit is a unit used to measure temperature. On a very hot day, the temperature outside might be 97 degrees Fahrenheit. When we record temperature, we should always include both a degree symbol and the word Fahrenheit or an F as the unit. Let's practice measuring the temperature. Observe the red line in the glass tube. Which tick mark is closest to the top of the red line? The top of the red line is between these 2 tick marks, right? This large tick mark represents 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So the smaller tick mark below represents 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Since the top of the line is between 68 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit, the temperature is 69 degrees Fahrenheit. Great work! Now let's measure the temperature of a cup of ice water. I put the thermometer in the ice water and then waited 1 minute. Now let's read the temperature. Wow, the temperature of the ice water is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Remember, ice is water in its solid state. What might happen when the temperature outside gets cold enough for water to freeze? Would precipitation still be rain? I don't think so. Do you? Water freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So when the temperature is 32 degrees Fahrenheit or lower, snow, sleet, or hail might fall instead of rain. Let's look at one more thermometer. Your first task after today's lesson will be to record the temperature on this thermometer. So let's look closer. Remember to use degrees Fahrenheit as the unit. Now that we have a way to observe and measure each weather condition, we can record weather data to help us answer the question, what is the weather like where we live? I think collecting and recording daily weather conditions will help us describe the weather where we live. Do you agree? Let's record this in our weather chart. We can write, people can measure and record daily weather conditions to describe the weather. Updating the weather chart will be your second task today. Imagine you collected daily weather data where you live. What do you think you would find if you compared your weather data with the weather data from a different location? Do you think the answer might depend on where that different location is? Some locations might have weather that is very similar to the weather where you live. But some locations might have very different weather. In the next lesson, we will compare weather conditions in 2 locations. Let's review your tasks for today. First, record the temperature on the thermometer. Next, update the weather chart.